Hello there, Qckslvrslash, and today I have a video courtesy of T. Rogers driving the Tier 9 Japanese battleship, the Izumo. And I personally really enjoyed this ship because I got to it after the rework of her where her armor was significantly buffed. I know a lot of people who early on in the game had a miserable time, and maybe it's worth going back and revisiting the ship. She's a really capable Tier 9 battleship with some hilarious secondaries, and granted a rather unique turret structure, they never really get in the way. Because much like the Iowa, you kind of go more or less nose in and ignore your rear turret. Really the only time it starts to suck is if you're running directly away from something, you can't shoot straight astern. Now, T. Rogers here is playing on Tears of the Desert, which has to be up there in my disliked maps. There's a lot of cover, but it's nowhere near where you need to be fighting, and all the caps are always right in the open. And it makes it very difficult to make any kind of stealth moves, especially on standard battle. It's a little better on domination, but destroyers tend to rule the day on this map. But in standard, you know, both teams basically sit behind their own set of islands and nothing really transpires the whole match. Until one team decides, okay, time to push, and it doesn't go so well. So, Rogers got a good first hit there on the Atago, one over-penetrating shell for 5,500 damage, and hopefully he can dial his aim in a little bit more and get just a little closer with his next volley. And unfortunately, none of those shells connect, but he does connect with this friendly York Night Prowler who just seems content to drive straight as the pair of them grind together. And off the bat, things are looking pretty good for T. Rogers' team. They've captured A, the team is more or less consolidating in a direction, which you need to do. Excuse me. And now they can kind of all start turning towards the north and capturing this enemy group who's split off from the main chunk of their own team. You can see those long-range secondaries starting to fire at the Leningrad as he lines up the Bismarck, and these shells, it's hard to say where they're going to be. 4,200, not that great a hit. Once again, two penetrating shells for about 12,000 damage. Meanwhile, his secondaries have got 9 shells into that Leningrad, and that Lenny is charging this Lo Yang, which seems a little misinformed, and he quickly realizes that as he sinks to the bottom of the ocean. So I definitely, as I said, I like what I'm seeing happening on the map. I would like to see, I don't know what Rogers just did there, but I would like to see them start pushing north sooner, because you really want to get into Bravo and capture this group before they can consolidate. And that's the risk they're running right now. This group has managed to pull back into cover. They've got a destroyer in the open doing spotting. Meanwhile, the group in the north now can start pushing down and pincering this big clump of ships in the south. So, for this strategy to really work out, now that they're all in one spot, they have to pick a force and just push into it. Use the number advantage you have while you have it, and start eliminating some ships. And unfortunately, I think the Lo Yang's now kind of doing the opposite of what that Leningrad. Now, Lo Yang to me is overcommitted. I get what he's doing. He's charged in, try to contest Bravo, but he's now several kilometers ahead of any allies and without a lot of support. Fortunately, he does have that smoke, but that leaves him vulnerable to torpedoes from either of those enemy destroyers, and you know, I hope he makes it out alive. Meanwhile, you can see those bombers just circling ahead, waiting for him to emerge from that smoke, eager to strike. And I gotta say, I don't like what Roger's friendly carrier is doing. He seems really intent and focused on trying to get his planes around the flank to attack the enemy carrier, when he could be taking advantage of some of these battleships who don't seem to have a lot of cruiser support. And, well, they're equal tier. They're tier 7 carriers, so things like that Scharnhorst in Nagato are perfect targets for them to strike. I mean, let's stay away from the Missouri, partly because he's got a cruiser with him, but partly because it's the Missouri. But otherwise, that's what that carrier should be focusing on, not this weird kite the border strategy to wipe out the enemy carrier. You know, at tier 10 I've seen it work, because a tier 10 carrier, if played well, can often just ace a tier 10 carrier in one strike, and if you can manage that, fine. But this is the second set of planes he sent up in that direction, and it really has taken a lot of spotting out of the fight. Spotting that Roger's team could really use. Just like Rogers could use some health right now. Repair's about as good as it's gonna get. Come on, buddy, hit the T key. Get that health back. And I think this is it for that Bliss. Yes, it is. Very good kill, and much needed, as his team is now down 4 kills to 2. Fortunately, it seems, because his friendly carrier is so intent on attacking that Hiryu, the Cleveland has decided to sit up there, and that kind of puts them an extra ship down, so you can almost say it's 4 to 3 for now. And all he's got to do is get some guns forward, and he can probably wipe this Bismarck out. And the one thing I will say for the Izumo that I really like is that the rear turret's got decent enough arcs. It's probably realistically about the same as any of the big battleships, but I mean, I could look it up, but to me it's always felt like it manages to get on target without exposing too much of your ship. And it's probably just a personal preference. And just my mind going, yeah, there's got to be a reason why they did that. But then again, they never did. This was kind of a concept ship that ended up leading to the creation of the Yamato class, is at least my understanding. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. And next up on the hit list is the deadly Missouri. And man, I still want my own Mighty Mo. I'm about halfway to the 750,000 free XP needed to just purchase her, and it's been more tempting than I care to admit to push that button. And Rogers picks up a 3rd kill, finishing off the Missouri, and maybe things are starting to look a little more up. The enemy carrier is actually dead. And Rogers' team's now up by 1 kill. The enemy team's down to 1 DD. They're no longer really contesting the middle of the map here, and they're pretty spread out. And when a team starts to spread out, it tends to get focused down. And you can kind of see that happening here. The Scharnhorst, Rogers, this destroyer, hopefully this Bismarck are all kind of focusing in on this North Carolina, trying to wipe them out. Because each ship you remove from the battle is just one fewer opponent. And the enemy team certainly seems to get that as they take out friendly Bismarck and Scharnhorst pretty much simultaneously. But that North Carolina is not long for the world. Rogers' shells not really do anything. Maybe his rear turret can finish it off. Much better angle at this point. No, it's probably not going to work. And it's here that I would be turning full bow in. And then the secondaries finish them off. So, what do I know? I did say this ship has some really fun secondaries. They're up to 92 hits themselves, which has to account for a good chunk of damage considering they've lit 3 fires as well. So, at this point, you know, you should be consolidating your effort. Now, you can see Rogers, he's decided, well, I'm going to kind of defend B, you know, a Tago, a couple battleships, but they're not really doing a lot of damage. They're not really hitting him. He's got lots of repairs left. That Atago is really within a single strike. But part of me would like to have seen him turn around and just finish this York off so that the carrier is safe. But at this point, he's kind of committed to his course of action. He's got these islands to his right. He can't really turn around because now he's in that kind of kill range for pretty much any battleship. 10k just seems to be, as I've said many times, that magical range where shells just seem to go right into the Citadel like butter. Gets a decent enough hit on the Atago. Bumps himself up to almost 85,000 damage, still sitting on the 4 kills, and now the enemy team is starting to coalesce into one spot. Putting that York down at A, you can see they've all kind of grouped up in the same area, and that can get very dangerous very quickly. And I think Rogers recognizes that, turning off as he lands a 12,000 damage hit into that Nagato, picking up his Confederate. And really just going to a running fight now, which, you know, as I was saying, I might have done a touch earlier, but he got some good damage in for closing. And should have waited to see that first shell land. Though, of course, because I mentioned something, 9,800 damage out of that volley. And his secondaries are just going to town. 32 hits. And you can just see them spraying. Just like the Yamato does, these secondaries have some great range and can really wreak some havoc. And sure, he's lost a bunch more health, but his next repair is back available, and that'll take him right back to about 50% hit points. And that's kind of the nice thing about these high-tier battleships, is their endurance, their ability to take a beating and just kind of be like, oh yeah, I can fix that, is so nice. And when you get into them, you know, you really need to focus on keeping yourself alive long enough to go through all those repair parties. When you've got 5 of them because you have superintendent and are running premium consumables, you gotta make sure you're using all 5. Otherwise you're not really utilizing kind of the maximum potential of your hit points. And that's really where the focus should be, I'd say, is you kind of want to utilize all that tanking ability to keep the gun shells off your allies, focused on you for as long as possible. And those could be very well the kill shots for the Nagato, and they are. He picks up the high caliber and the Kraken, and, you know, things are just looking good. The Shratsu keeps missing with the torpedoes. The Atago's not on a ton of health. He's got a Scharnhorst trying to chase up his stern, but I think that's going to work out for this friendly Lo Yang. Might just get some good torpedoes into him. And, I mean, he's going to make sure that Shiratsu doesn't have any more chances to torp him. The question becomes, can he dodge all the torpedoes already sent his way? And it's looking like the answer is gonna be yes. He's got lots of room to turn behind him. He dodges the first round, the second are gonna be clear. It's just gonna come down to whether or not any of this kind of third volley here in the middle hits them. And they're tracking right, so I think it's safe to say he's successfully kind of done a bit of a disco beat without getting anything so dangerous. And in the end, all told, well played game by T. Rogers. Victory, 352,000 credits, close quarter expert, Confederate, Dreadnought, Kraken, high caliber, 175,000 damage, and those 6 kills. Now granted, some of the kills weren't super high damage, but it still removed guns from the enemy team. And throughout the battle, you kind of saw a good way of tackling this map. And if a team is all going to one direction, they've got to group up and then just focus on, you know, the smaller group of enemies when they have a chance. You can't give the enemy team a chance to ever coalesce into a major force. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this game. If you did, consider giving it a thumbs up or subscribing to the channel. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash, and I'm going to have another one for you guys tomorrow.